that.
Have fun tonight, okay?
Every neighborhood has a house with a secret.
Awesome kite.
There's something going on at that house.
Monster House. All right. So, this movie is about a group of kids, and the whole point of this movie, there's always like that house on like every street or in the neighborhood that like somebody died in, like even it was John Carpenter said to thinking about the original Halloween, that he's like there was always a house that somebody had died in, so he took that idea and basically helped create what classic we have today. But this one, it takes that and makes a full movie of it, and it's actually pretty clever the way they do it. So the movie's about this group of kids that one of them is literally across the street from this house that they believe is haunted or something's going on with it. And so they are like slowly investigating, and then they soon to realize that the house is an actual living monster. So there goes the neighborhood. So this movie I didn't see when it came out, and I saw it years later thanks to Cartoon Network, because they would always, it was this and like a couple of other movies where they just constantly ran them. And it was like, okay, like you guys are constantly running these movies, so I guess I'll watch it. So then I sat down and watched it, and I was like, wow, this is actually a lot better than I thought it was, or I thought it was going to be. Because yeah, they take the whole like, well, what if somebody died in that house kind of mystery, and they make it into a full movie. And it was really clever the way they did it. So this movie it's executive produced by Robert Zemeckis and Steven Spielberg, because the Image Movers and Amblin productions are on top of it. And this also was, I didn't realize this until like doing some research, that it is co-written by Dan Harmon before he helped do Rick and Morty. And I think it was probably either before or during his run with the show Community, but I'm not too sure about that. And this movie is also, it came out during a time in like 2000s when kids movies would get scary and dark, and they really don't make movies like this anymore. You know, like movies like this or like Coraline, where it's just like they would get legitimately dark, and yeah, they just don't do that anymore, which sucks because I miss those kind of movies. And something with the movie is that the animation, it's I know it's a mixture of like CGI, but also mixed with mocap, and I think there was like some sort of like claymation stuff going on with it too, and mainly because it does have the Image Movers logo on it. And if you don't know, they've done like CG movies like Polar Express or Beowulf or even Christmas Carol, where at times it's like, yeah, they just look freaky. But this doesn't go with that. It doesn't. It's not trying to, be realistic, where it's like at times it's just like, why don't you just shoot this with live action? So where with those movies, um, it's like they're trying to make it look live action, but because it's a CG movie, they either make them more cartoonish or at times more like grotesque. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But with this, they're not trying to do that. And another thing with the movie is that it's got a huge cast in it. Like, forgot how many people were actually in this movie. Like, you have, like Steve Buscemi. You have Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jason Lee, Kevin James, Nick Cannon, John Heater. So you have like a really good cast, and like a lot of people that were kind of in their prime at that time. And it's a big cast, and every time that I see, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, they're in this. Oh yeah, that's right, I forgot they're in this. So it's really interesting. The movie itself, it's trying to like be a kids movie, but at the same time, there are parts where it's just like, yeah, I don't really think kids would uh, uh, be suited to watch this. Like some like slight innuendos, or even like some of the scary parts. But they work, and like I said, this was during the time when a lot of kids movies were being more darker, and they were able to push the limit on certain things. So it was kind of cool. I really enjoyed the story, like, because they keep like adding more mystery to it, and to the point you're like, wait, is this the way it's heading? Is this the way it's heading? So it is really, really interesting. And yeah, you know, it beca- yeah, it's really cool the way they do it. And also, like, I know it's like a mixture, like I said, like mocap, CGI, but I was wondering, like, how do they do some of these shots in this? Because there's like long tracking shots, or like some of like the like camera shots are just like, it's super brief, but the way they do it is just so cool. And they're just like, we don't care if this scene is maybe like 10 seconds, 5 seconds, or even like 3 seconds. It needs to look cool. So that's what it seemed like they were doing. Another thing about the movie is that it is surprisingly funny. And like, there's times during it that I'm just like, yeah, that's pretty funny. But also at the same time, they kind of established that the only the kids can see the house, being a monster, and that kind of becomes lost in like the third act. And I mean, the third act is pretty cool because it just becomes like, hey, we're just going to turn this into a monster film, and it's super cool the way they do it. But also at the same time, there's certain parts where I'm like, how did this person not see this, or what? Like, they sounds that people are walking around, and it's like no one hears this kind of stuff happening. So it becomes weird. So it's just like, does everybody have like earmuffs, or is this like a super quiet neighborhood, or is this the kind of neighborhood that nobody lives in, and only a certain amount of people live on this block, so they can't hear anything? So yeah, it becomes a bit weird. But really, those are like only criticisms. And because ultimately the movie it has a lot going on with it. They're, even with some of the scares, it's clever the way they do it. They don't really care about doing a lot of jump scares. It's all about, the build up and that kind of stuff. And it also makes me think like, Dan Harmon, you should probably write another like something horror related, because this is really cool and clever. This is also directed by a guy named Gil Kenan, who was going to do the Five Nights at Freddy's movie, but dropped out because the project wasn't going anywhere at the time. To now, he co-wrote the Ghostbusters Afterlife, and now is directing the new one, which, yeah, it sucks that got pushed to March, but, it's okay. But overall with this movie, it's really clever the way they do it. The animation isn't like the Zemeckis CG ones where it's just like, it just looks gross and just like it just looks scary on everybody. So it's nicely done. Personally, I give this a grade. Yeah, it's the third act. While it is cool, there are certain things where I'm just like, yeah, I think everybody has like muffled ears, or they're deaf and just can't hear this kind of stuff. Or even sometimes I'm like, this is in full daylight and no one can see this. Yeah, that's an issue. But overall, this is still a great movie, and I think it's a good movie to show your kids if you want to get them into horror.
Oh no!
When no one will listen.
Don't go any further!
Are you guys mentally challenged? If you are, I'm certified to teach you baseball.